So, how have you been since last session?
So it's very hard to tell because your mind plays tricks on you. Like, do I feel less tension and less pain in my stomach and back or not? I don't know. I feel it a little bit now. It felt less then.
To the dread and the doom?
Yeah. So it was. What can I say? It it felt that it went down in the session, and um, I still have quite a bit of that sense of dread. But I what I thought was just so interesting was that I never looked at the situation of my family in that way, that there wasn't any room to be sad. No one was talking about being sad. And I think it's very powerful. I think my mother went through the war. I don't think that she came to terms in some way and allowed herself to feel sad, and like it organized how we dealt with. Every family has challenges. We had some very unusual and difficult ones throughout the years. Some upheavals and sudden moves and sudden illnesses, protracted illnesses, life-threatening illnesses. So there's no room for sad, and it might have really been different, I think, if there was.
So, is that something that you would like to focus on today?
Yes, although I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with it, but um, I'm good with it.
Okay. So, you were in touch with the sadness last time.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say that that I realized to look at it that way, that there wasn't room for sad.
Uh-huh. Would you like to just see where that goes?
Yes.
Okay. So, last time we used a resourcing spot. We found the spot in your body that was the calmest, and we used the pointer to find that spot where
Okay.
you felt the calmest in that part of your body, right?
Okay.
This time, we're going to try a little bit differently, and we're going to do kind of what the opposite. So we're going to
Okay.
find what's called the activating spot, the
Okay.
place, the spot and the place in your body where you feel it the most, where you
All right.
feel. So let's see if you can just go inside and see if you notice the sadness anywhere, or the idea that your family didn't address sadness or
Okay.
deal with sadness.
So what am I supposed to do exactly?
Go inside and find where you
Find what?
feel that.
It also feels like the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
I want to double check, not just to reflexively go there, but I feel almost all my feelings in my stomach.
Yeah. Okay, that's common. So I'm gonna move the pointer across your field of vision, and you're gonna tell me where you feel it the most. So right
Okay.
now, when you are noticing the sadness in your stomach, 0 to 10, how disturbing does it feel? 10 is the most, 0 is neutral.
Well, part of the problem is I don't necessarily feel the sadness. Like I'm
Okay.
still feeling the tension and the dread.
Oh,
So it's hard to assess.
okay. Okay, so you were disturbed by the fact that there wasn't the presence of sadness.
Yeah, I don't even know how that came about.
Okay.
It just the thought came as we were focusing on it, and I realized all that stuff was going on, and no one was feeling sad, and it just made me think that if I had that experience of being sad, maybe other things would be processed differently, like behind the dread.
Yeah, well,
That
that's
maybe need the sadness to let go of the dread.
It's an important insight, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to see where this goes.
Okay.
Okay, so focus in on your stomach, and I'm going to move the pointer and tell me where you feel it the strongest.
Okay.
I'll move it back.
Here, go the other way. I got a full. sweep forward again. Yeah, all the way. Take it to the end. That's where it makes you uncomfortable.
No,
But
it's fine.
that's the
It's fine.
that's where it gets the most activated. All the
Okay,
way to
right
the left.
here?
Yeah.
More?
Keep going as far as you go. It's like feel like a rubber band. The more you go, the more tense it gets.
Oh, okay.
Okay, like all the way on the left side. Yeah, which
Okay.
is interesting.
More?
This is good. This
This
is
is
fine.
good?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your spot. I'm gonna go up now. I'm gonna move it up.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps I'm wondering if we should move the camera so that people looking at this can see where the pointer is. Or we should maybe
I think we
not
should
necessarily
describe
make
it
it.
because
Okay.
it's going to interfere with the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it, right. So just you can't see it on camera, but
Okay.
it is
So
all
I'm
the way
gonna
to
move
the
it.
far left of my field of vision.
Okay, we're gonna move it up
Mm-hmm.
and tell me where you feel it stronger.
Yeah, I seem to have a propensity to the extremes.
Okay.
So
Should I move it down?
let's see
Or...
about the lower part of the vision,
Okay.
lower field of vision.
Okay,
Let's see.
moving it down.
Right now I can't see it anymore. So, but that's good right there. It seems.
Right there?
Yeah, down and
Okay.
that's the strongest.
Okay. So this will be your spot. I'm gonna keep this here
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of our session.
Okay.
And you can look at the spot or you can focus inward. You can close your eyes if you want to, or you can
Okay.
look at other places around the room.
Okay.
Do whatever you need to do, but the spot's yours. It's gonna stay here the whole time. So if you're closing your eyes, you open it, it'll be here. If I move it, let me know, because I want to keep it in the right spot. Is this the right spot?
It's pretty good, yeah.
Oh, let's tweak it.
Yeah, point it out. No, like this, straight out. Keep going. That's good.
This? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
It's good now?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if I move it at any time, just let me know. I'll fix it.
Right. Okay.
Good now?
Good's good.
Okay. So you're gonna focus in on your stomach and see about the dread and doom or anything about the sadness. And just let your brain and your body do what it needs to do.
Okay.
What do you notice?
Well, an interesting like recollection came back. Am I supposed to tell you recollections? Like when you say
You
what
can
I
share
noticed?
as much or as little as you want.
Okay.
Your body and your brain is processing whether or not you say it out loud.
Okay, so I'd rather not say, but it's an
Okay.
important recollection.
Okay. So just notice it. Just notice.
Okay.
Feel free to share what's happening or not.
Just different memories, noticing things about like how there really was um, a lot to be sad about, and there just wasn't processed that way.
And where are you noticing that in your body?
I noticed it in my stomach.
Yeah. How disturbing does it feel on 0 to 10?
See, I don't have so much access to the sadness. So I'm feeling the pain in my back, in my stomach, but I'm not feeling the sadness so much.
You feel the pain in your back
Yeah,
and in your stomach,
yeah.
and you're not feeling the sadness.
Not really, no.
Okay, so
I mean,
just
I think
notice
about
that.
it. I feel it a little bit, but
Uh-huh.
it doesn't really feel like it should. Like,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
just notice.
like I should have a good cry about all those things that happened. They were really hard.
You should have a good cry about the things that happened.
Right, but
What's happening for you right now?
right, it's the same. It's just the way it feels.
Can you
So
just be with it? I noticed you're shaking your head back and forth for a bit.
hmm
Would you like to share what was happening then?
I think I was just trying to imagine, like if you're sad about something, like there's things you just have to be sad about, and I was trying to acknowledge it, to feel bad about that,
To feel bad that you were not able to be sad?
or to feel the sadness itself.
You're not able to feel the sadness.
Yeah, and then like I could.
So you could feel the sadness.
No, meaning I was saying that I could, but it really does still much more remote. Like I think these events were really bad. It's like it people really could and should cry over them. But I just don't think. I think I've been conditioned really strongly not to have access to that. So like it just feels a little forced now. I could feel a little sad, but then I didn't, you know, and now it's remote.
So it's disturbing to you that you don't have access to the sadness and that you were conditioned to not feel sadness. But you don't necessarily want to tap into sadness right now.
Well, I want to because I think that it feels that it would it would somehow relieve some of the dread,
So,
because like everything's locked locked up and there's a lot of fear and maybe like process to be able to accept that some of these things really were very very bad, you know, then then the feeling about what's going on now is going to be what it is. There's what to always worry about, but just my sense is that the emotions will be in a better order.
well, you can trust that. You're feeling like if you had access to sadness, it would help relieve the dread and the fear.
Right.
That somehow that's keeping it, not having access to sadness is locking up the dread and fear, not dread and
Yeah. Yeah. Not wanting to. I don't know exactly why, but just right.
just stay with that.
Stay with what?
The understanding that not having access to sadness keeps you locked in the dread.
It's like there's a way. It feels like it's like a pressure, a way of life, not to feel sad. Like it just it and it like it just reminds me of like teachers or different moral messages. It's somehow like being sad is a bad thing, you know, and it feels very like dissociated, you know, like you just can't be upset,
Hmm. So
you
you
know.
got these messages from the important figures in your life that sadness wasn't okay.
Right, because I think that there is a certain morality to it. Like it's not a good idea, and it's not forget about a good idea. It's not morally appropriate to get sad and upset about everything because you're not being optimistic and you're appreciating things in life. So like, there's a certain moral taint. But on the other hand, of course, when there are times where you should be sad, especially if like catastrophic or painful things happen. But I'm saying I'm reflecting on, like I remember, I don't even know what I was upset about. I remember in fifth grade a few times, my teacher who meant well, and so I was upset about something, and then I got really upset because when he asked me if I was upset, I started to cry, and it's like forget about Ten Commandments. The number one commandment if you're a fifth grade boy is not to cry in school. And I was so frustrated. I was crying, and I was getting upset with the fact that I was crying. And then every time he would ask me more, it would make me cry more, and I was so frustrated. But now I realize it's funny because I think that he wanted me to recognize what I was sad about, which is interesting because he was not a particularly emotionally attuned teacher, as a matter of fact. But I suppose this much he knew. And he went through, I happen to know, he went through a lot of suffering himself in his life. He knew you should be sad. And I was so frustrated and so angry that he was asking me about it. And I had really some very serious pressures and frustrations in that grade. I was doing well academically, but I was under a lot of pressure and I really was unhappy. I was very unhappy. And it didn't, I wasn't letting myself. It's funny. It's so interesting. I'm thinking back. He was a bit of a buffoon. He really didn't understand a whole lot about feelings. Because he also should have realized that I was uncomfortable crying in front of people, right? Like, so in that way, he was like a bull in the china shop. But he was trying to give me permission to be upset. He saw I was, and it's interesting. Anyway, well, whatever it was though was lost on me, and I. It just shows you how it was so bad to be sad.
It was really bad to be sad.
And that was even before. I mean, there are a number of other painful things that happened after that. Like that was not even the only or most traumatic like period of my life. Like that was a time that I was adjusting to trauma that happened a year or two earlier, and still very much in the thick of the fallout from it in my family. But that wasn't even so like here I couldn't be sad about that, and I can't even imagine like what happened afterward. But there was a lot of sadness.
So you're noticing that there were so many things that happened that you weren't allowed to be sad, or you felt that you weren't allowed to be sad.
Yeah.
Struggling not to be sad, even when your teacher invited you to.
Yeah, there's just something. It was. I can't explain it. You know, all these things are nonverbal. So there were a couple of major disruptions. So when I was in second grade, there was a major disruption. I don't need to go into specifics, but the point is, major life upheavals of the family. And then in third grade, both of my father's father died, and my mother's mother died. So there was a lot of, I think, for them, unacknowledged grief. But one thing I remember at the Shiva, I'm watching my grandfather. As I mentioned, that my mother went through the war, so my grandfather went through the war and lost siblings and family members to the Nazis. They were killed, executed. So I he's a whole different character, but so his wife, he's sitting Shiva, and he was crying in a way that I never saw an adult cry. It was just these like, these gut wrenching wails, like the kind, when adults really are bereft of everything. And it just didn't look good. No one, it looked like he was dying. I was worried about it looked like he was having a seizure, you know, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't even wasn't even sure if it was crying. Like no one explained. So I'm watching, an elderly like person in the family, like a distinguished person. I'm watching him completely disintegrate, right? Which is his right. His wife died, right? He can act any way he wants. But it was extremely scary, and I'm realizing too, like not realizing it, but the message was even then, well, like sadness is this weird, crazy thing. Like it was like he was sick. It was like he was diseased. It really looked like he was having a seizure, and no one said, well, he's just really grieving. That's what people do when they lost something so important. It's like it was a moment of mental hygiene. Nobody meant it to private of me because obviously my parents were busy with their own grief. But like it just wasn't processed. It was just on overexposure and it wasn't processed. I really, that kind of intense gut wrenching sadness is actually something to see in a way.
Yes. Would you like to focus in?
And for all his unacknowledged grief, it's so funny because he also did not deal with his grief with his own family members. He somaticized everything. He was the healthiest person in the whole family, and he was the sickest. He was in and out of hospitals with this imagined disease, that imagined disease. Meanwhile, he lived until he was 92 and had most of his teeth in his hair. And you're talking about somebody that grew up with nutrition that was from the turn of the century, right? Like, I hope I'll be as healthy as he was, at his age. But he was always sick. He was always sick because he really felt guilty. I forget the number, but something like seven siblings were murdered by the Nazis. So like he has a whole different, and his parents and everything. But at his wife's shiva, he was falling apart.
Would you like to focus in on that experience and just be with it?
With the grandfather,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was a moment of mental hygiene.
right. Like I could have been educated. Like this is that's grief. Times in your life when something's ripped away from you that's so important to you, it's torn away. You could grieve like that.
You could grieve
Like
like
he
that.
was treated like I'm telling you, he was treated like it was an illness. It was not an illness. He was a man that had the most important thing to him ripped away from him. You know, his wife was everything to him, and she was because she really took care of him. He was utterly incapable of taking care of himself. She did everything for him. You know, it's very interesting. Yeah. So right, like you just feel sad. Now I feel sad. See, it's interesting. So I do, right, I do really feel sad about that. I feel like nobody said that if something's, yeah, that's what really got to me when I said those words. Something was just torn away from you because things were torn away from us. Really torn away suddenly. Such important things lost, ripped away cruelly. Like floodwaters coming washing away a baby. here 1 second, the next you read about in the news, next second they're gone. They're just washed away by tidal waves. So that didn't happen, but extremely powerful things beyond our control just yanked, yanked well-being from us.
So,
Prosperity, health. It depends. There were different events, but awful.
so notice the sadness that you're able to feel right now, how things were yanked away.
It's terrible.
So,
It's terrible. Really, really awful. And it's there's just some things in life that they're unexplainable, and it doesn't have to be explained. Whether it's the incredible cruelties that my grandfather and mother experienced in people murdering their family members, or the other crazy things that happened that stole prosperity and health and livelihood. But that happens. It doesn't happen every day. And but but when that happens, the appropriate response is this raw, you know, animal like howling, just howling.
yes, that is appropriate.
That's what a human being does.
Yes.
You know, but there wasn't that.
You can let yourself have that.
I have that. I realize that things are really torn away. So much is torn away. Yeah. So you can have all these good things in life, and also just have so many things torn away, and that happens again. There's the eventuality of death and all kinds of losses that will happen as a part of these. You know, yeah, you gotta howl. You gotta be really angry.
You gotta howl, you gotta be angry. Yes.
Yeah.
Where are you feeling that in your body right now? That you gotta howl and you gotta be angry.
So it's interesting. I felt it in my chest and in my eyes. Less in my stomach. Like it's coming out. And it was interesting in the last session that also the safer place was in the eyes. You know.
Hmm. So if we want to focus in on your eyes,
Well, I think that's my compensation. Like looking forward and learning and taking in things. Like all the success came, from keeping my eyes open and like going forward, learning new things and developing. So these terrible things, which are very, very big losses, I went through them. So like it just feels that's like closer to my head, that's closer to my strengths, and that's how I processed it. You know,
and what's happening in your chest right now?
it's like an angry strong. It's like I'm really angry, sad. You know,
Can you spend time with that?
Yeah. I wonder if I had tantrums as a child, you know? Because that's what it is, like it's having a tantrum. It's, you know, when your ego defenses are so overwhelmed that you just collapse into this ball of anger and sadness. But I guess it's like a reset, or it's like when people you know, have a terrible depression and they do shock therapy and they induce a seizure. Like maybe they're all related. It's just you just have to sometimes do that. You have to let things just blow apart because it's so bad. And I don't know. I don't remember having, but maybe people stop having tantrums at a time, but they probably still don't have a great memory. So maybe I had as many tantrums as typical 3-year-olds or 5-year-olds. I don't know, but I don't remember that. But I needed to have a tantrum about some of these things,
You needed to have a tantrum.
right? Because they really were terrible. They just were so bad. They were really bad.
Notice that. You needed to have a tantrum.
Yeah, it's true.
Would you like to check back in with the dread and doom?
I mean, I feel it. I feel the dread and doom. But I think it's interesting. You know, do I, when I feel the dread and doom, you know, should I make room and ask myself, do you want to also really, really feel sad about about the things that were stolen from you?
You're asking yourself,
Right. And
do you
then
want to feel the sadness too?
yeah, and then you get into this whole transgenerational stuff. Like what did the Nazis steal from us? Like I could have had 7 uncles and aunts and even maybe like great grandparents who they were they were spiritually and emotionally prosperous where they were in Poland. My great grandfather was a rabbi with thousands of followers, not hundreds, thousands of followers. A great man whose life was cut short. His writings, his activity, anything he would have done in the world, and then you know the gift of all these family members, and the family must have had you know prosperity and wealth also, not just spiritual prosperity, because it was this very successful um, clan, really, and then that's just like that transgenerational thing was stolen from us. Like what, where could we have been now if not for that? But then just whatever all the things that were taken out of my life, those really terrible uh, um, mortal diseases and upheavals that happened. It just was, you know, a lot was taken away. It's very, very sad. All the plot was lost.
So you're noticing the sadness too.
Really, really, and well, I lost many things as much as I have great things too. I've lost many things to this day. Some losses they may never be recovered. Destroyed relationships, destroyed people. It's bad. It's really bad.
Just notice how bad it is.
I notice how bad it is. It's bad.
And what's happening in your stomach and in your chest right now?
The stomach doesn't hurt as much. It's there. I just feel like, a lot of pain, like muscle spasms. That's what I think. I think that those muscle spasms are like they're trying to keep a lid on it. You know,
Trying to keep a lid
if
on
I
it.
could fully express it, then the muscles wouldn't be. It's like you clench up your jaw when you're frustrated because what you really want to do is yell, right? So you're clenching
Mm,
up your jaw to keep yourself from yelling, or you're
mm-hmm.
activating the same muscles you would do for yelling, but by clenching. It's like that. I'm clenching up. I don't know how to release that. It doesn't feel like it's something that's going to come right this minute. It is interesting. There's there's definitely this anger and sadness. A lot was lost. A lot. Just so much was lost. Wow. Wow.
So much was lost.
Priceless, priceless things that I had a right to was taken away.
Things that you had a right to were taken away.
Yeah.
And there's sadness, and you don't feel like it's going to be released right now.
I mean, I feel more of it. Like at that moment there, my back wasn't hurting. Then I was.
Mm.
It just.
But the dread and the doom keeps a lid on it.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's also an effort to control that it doesn't happen in the future. But these
Hmm.
sadnesses, these things, there is no controlling for it. This will be life. That sometimes something so precious from you is going to be stolen from you in a second. I mean, fortunately, that didn't happen to me. Somebody didn't suddenly die on me, even though it became very close to that. Because, like I said, there was a family member that was mortally ill suddenly, and it was caused decades of upheaval, not weeks, not years, decades, decades of a different life because that person was, in, mortally wounded, and it happens all the time. Just, people suffer terribly. People, you get a phone call, you know, loved one was in a car accident, they're gone, right? So, but it's very bad. So you can worry about it and fret about it because you don't want it to happen, but there's nothing's going to stop it from happening when it happens. It's just going to happen.
So the dread and the doom tries to control it from not happening again.
Yeah. By the way, the music stopped.
Oh,
If there's a way to, I
well,
just
thank you for
noticed that
telling me.
now
Yeah, sure.
because that's important.
So I'm gonna probably lose the spot in doing this with my left hand.
It's okay if you just tell me what to do. I'll turn it on myself. It looks like it's playing.
Yeah,
Don't not getting any volume. It's odd.
let's make it louder. Oh, you turn.
Maybe this one, maybe audio. Oh, now I have it. I got
Okay,
it working.
okay. Do I have the
Okay.
spot still?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, so we got the music back. We got the
Yeah, and I know
spot.
every so often you look at the spot.
Okay. Yeah.
It's your anchor.
Yeah. Now I can feel more of the sadness when I look at the spot.
Okay.
Well, it's very sad. It's not okay that these things happen.
It's not okay that these things happen.
Yeah. I won't be crying on video. It's bad enough that my teacher in fifth grade made me cry in school so many times. It
Okay.
can't happen.
Okay.
That's too much.
Okay.
But I definitely have a lot more access to the sadness.
Okay. So perhaps this is a good time to wrap up and bring our session to a close.
I think so. Like
Okay.
it's important. I feel like I have more of a connection to this, but we'd have to figure out, mm, take some time and then see what to do with it.
Sure. Okay. So why don't you check back in with your stomach, your chest, and your eyes and your back,
Yeah.
and just see what's happening with the dread and the doom and the sadness and all of the insights you've had.
It's more blended. You
Mhm.
know, I can feel more of the sadness in the dread and the doom, and there's
Mm.
dread and the doom also, but
So the
it's
dread
an
and the doom
angle.
doesn't have the lid so tight on the sadness.
Right, like it's an
Uh-huh.
angle that if I want to explore if I'm feeling the dread, next time do I consider, well, you could also just feel sad if you want to. You
Mm.
lost a lot, so
You
you
can
could feel
also
sad.
just feel sad.
Right, you lost a
Okay.
lot, you could feel sad. If you want to feel dread, you can feel dread too. There is what to dread. There are things that are not okay in the world and things to worry about. But I could at least have that option. I think that's what I need to think about.
Yeah. So there's a new option in the future when you notice feeling dread and doom. You have the option to think about, oh, maybe there's sadness that I could tap into. Maybe I
Right.
could just feel sad.
It might be a little less obnoxious. You know, not everybody wants to deal with an angry person or an anxious person. Not that, whatever, you can feel any way you want, but it would be interesting.
Okay. Uh, so in this moment, the dread and the doom level of disturbance, 0 to 10, is what?
I guess like a 3.
Okay. And the sadness?
4 or 5. Well,
Okay. So the
I
sad,
feel sad.
yeah,
I do
okay.
feel sad. I didn't start out feeling
You
sad.
started out not being able to
No, I did
connect,
feel sad.
and now you feel it at 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Okay. And the dread and the doom is a 3 now.
yeah,
Okay. What did it start out as? I don't think we established that.
yeah. It wasn't, maybe a 5.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So would it be okay if I moved the pointer and took the spot away for
yeah,
now? So I'll do it
yeah.
slowly like last time?
hmm
Okay. Any last words?
No, that was fine.